Welcome, everyone. We are excited to have you here today with us as we continue with our May topic as part of our 2026 Metrics That Matter learning series. Today, we're going to be looking at best practices. So we've looked at dimensions 1 and 2 over the last couple of months, and today we're going to be looking at dimensions 1 and 2 as it relates to best practices. We're really excited to have Bassem Obaid here with us today. He is the CEO of PDCA Group, and he has more than 30 years of global experience in various industries and management systems. He's also the former global head of training and improvement services at LRQA, and he's led resilience assessments across several UAE government entities. And he is here today to share what that looks like, what the organizational resilience capability assessment looks like across those entities. So let's just dig in a little bit about our learning series. If this is your first time attending, we welcome you, and you can see that in February we did an introduction. We ended up postponing our March webinar to April. So we had 2 of them in April, both leadership and strategy and culture and behavior. And here we are today with our best practices. If you haven't seen the past webinars, you can see them on our website as well as our YouTube channel. And the future ones, if you haven't signed up, please go ahead and do so. As we mentioned, we're going to be looking at dimensions 1 and 2. So dimension 1 is leadership and strategy, where we talk about having that shared vision and clarity of purpose, an understanding of your organization's context and the relationships it has, as well as how it governs and it has accountability for its resilient strategy. Under culture and behavior for dimension 2, we specifically key in on the leadership role as it relates to culture and the leadership role as it relates, of course, to developing that strategy. And then we look at kind of the cornerstones of how your organization operates, with how it shares information and knowledge, and to what extent it operates as an agile organization. All right, we're going to go ahead and let Bassem get started. Welcome, Bassem. We look forward to learning from you today.
Thank you, Linda, and a warm welcome again to all of our esteemed guests who's listening tonight, because for me now it's 5 minutes past 9 o'clock where I'm sitting in UAE. Welcome on board. What I'm gonna share, as Linda has introduced, a short story about the organization resilience capability assessment, focusing mainly on the first 2 dimensions of the framework that measures the capabilities of the organizations. I'm going to start with an introduction about what measurement by itself, why do we measure, a brief about the ORCA, Organizational Resilience Capability Assessment Framework, and then some tips for preparing for a useful and effective and insightful assessment. And then we're going to go and do a deep dive on the couple of dimensions, the first 2 dimensions, leadership and strategy, culture and organizational behavior, and end up with a summary on how to what next, how can we sustain the results of the assessments. I'm going to tie it up with real experiences that I have seen. In UAE, there is a good demand for getting assessed and certified by ICOR for the organizational resilience systems. The demand has been led mainly, and you'll be surprised probably to hear that, by the government entities in UAE. They are all keen to implement the worldwide best practices of organizational resilience. They've adopted the framework of ICOR, and then they started to ask for, okay, can you come and verify it and tell us where do we stand with regards to our capabilities. So I'm going to share some of the best practices from the almost a dozen of assessments has been done so far in UAE, and take it from there. Right. So starting by the good question. So why do we really need to assess and measure organizational resilience? And as ICOR guidelines state a very sharp and focused few words. It says, without measurement, improvement is a guesswork. And then the having the organizational resilience assessed will help organizations. I would call it to gain the five E's. Uh, the five E's sum up basically that you will get a thorough understanding. Where do you stand? Where are the opportunities for improvement? Where should you, as an organization and as a senior management of the organization, focus to create great progress, quick wins, as well as long sustained benefits from organizational resilience. So the five E's that actually ICOR has identified, saying if you go through the assessment, you're gonna understand your strengths and weaknesses, and that will enable you to get the benefits from the system. It will make resilience look like a strategic priority for the top management and for the whole organization, which empowers actually the people in charge of resilience to move forward with it. It's a commitment that will engage all entities, all parties, all locations, and all individuals in the long-term journey towards a resilient organization. It will enable also to establish a clear focus and strategic objectives and enhance the activities that will improve the resilience. And, and, and a final saying about why do we need really to measure organizational resilience is organizations, they spend a lot of time and effort and resources on planning. And I rarely saw, to be honest, from assessing either resilience or even in my past experience over 21 years auditing various management systems, I rarely saw organizations failing in plans, i.e., in preparing and documentations. But I saw many plans failing to be implemented correctly and achieve the desired outcome because simply they were not part of the organizational culture, and there was not a clear commitment and focus and engagement from all parties of the organization. So it's really important to get into this journey and test where do we stand with regards to organizational resilience. Um, and how do we do that? So ICOR has created an organization resilience maturity assessment measurement tool, if you like. And the measurement tool has taken the main dimensions and the 9 basic strategies that that has been recognized among the most resilient organizations globally. They've rephrased them into 5 main dimensions and 15 strategies in the assessment measurement tool. And that tool basically is used to measure both directions. It is used to measure the capabilities maturity levels as well as the behavioral competencies. I'm going to explain and elaborate on that in few slides. And then the outcome of this assessment is a recognition by ICOR for those organizations that achieve either an excellence level in organizational resilience, represented by a 3-star level, or they achieve a leadership level in organizational resilience, represented by a couple of 2 stars level, or even represented by the remit and the of the organizational resilience, represented by the 1-star level. So it's a 2 dimensions evaluation, if you like, an evaluation of what you have in place, what the organizations have planned to do, what capabilities they have planned to implement and prepared. Those could be in a form of policies, procedures. Those could be in a form of systems, tools, applications, and so on. So all the organizational capabilities, I call it the organization's muscles, if you like, that will enable the organization to respond to change, and also to recognize the opportunities that will rise in the horizon from the change, and work effectively to achieve the best outcome out of these changes and opportunities. So that's the first part. So there's an evaluation of the capabilities themselves that are available there in a scale from 1 to 3. And yes, it's not a scale from 1 to 5. So ICOR has made the evaluation, if you like, on the tougher side. So either you score 1 or 2 or 3. I'm gonna elaborate on that in a minute. The other side, the other dimension of the evaluation is the organizational behaviors. The behavior skills that are implemented in the organization at all levels, from top management to middle management to even to the lower level of the organization. And those represents the behaviors of how we implement those capabilities, how we think, how we work, how we interact with each other internally, how we interact with the external stakeholders and external parties, customers and suppliers. Uh, and those two dimensions, the capabilities, what we have planned to implement, our organizational muscles, and how actually we manage and operate and work those capabilities, both of them are evaluated in a scale from 1 to 3. And 1 to 3 in the capabilities view means we'll start with a 3 because that should be our aim basically. A 3 is you are at the optimized level of the capabilities. The capability is there, it's clear, it's documented, it's implemented, it is effective, it is monitored, it is measured, not on a periodical period. It is continually improved. It is data driven. It has a live monitoring, and it could be a worldwide best practice benchmark. And here it's we talk about an adaptive, flexible, and innovative capability by design that is well maintained in the long run. And opposite to that is level number 1, where there's an initial and ad hoc level. Basically, there could be no capability. There could be sporadic levels of documentation that's left to the individuals or maybe as separate teams here and there within the organization to deal with. It's more reactive. So we're talking about a reactive response to what could go wrong, and trying to do the best out of it. And here we are at the first level. And in the middle level, number 2, we're talking about where the majority of the capabilities of organizations that I've seen actually sit. We're talking about a well-defined capability. It's measured, it's controlled, and in most of the cases, you could even have an ISO relevant standard certification issued against this capability, and there are KPIs, and there's a periodic review, audits, findings, and corrective actions happening. So here we're talking about a defined and managed capability. So these are the 3 levels of the capabilities. Now in ICOR model, I said there are 5 dimensions, and each dimension has 3 specific strategies, or if you like, you can call them main criterias. And then under each one of these strategies, there are 5 defined capabilities. So in total, we're talking about 75 capabilities that the ORCA tool tests and measures and scales from 1 to 3. And with regards to the organizational behavior competencies, again, this is what I said, how the organization behaves internally and externally at all levels, from top management, middle management, and even individuals. And here there are 6 organizational behaviors, and each one of those behaviors is assessed with a specific questions and criteria. So in total, against each specific strategy and capability. So we have in total in the assessment ORCA tool 273, if you like, behavior competencies questions or criteria that are verified from 1 to 3. And the aim here is to show that there is really a big emphasis and a big importance on not only what you have in place. It's more important how you make the best out of that and how you operate it and how you use it to enhance your organizational resilience. Again, the behavior competencies are measured from 1 to 3. Three, that the behavior competence is really embedded, it's there 90% of the time, and it is a cultural, it is clear in the organizational culture. You can see it, you can live it, and you can feel it. And that's the aim of the 3-star level. One, we say, well, the behavior is inconsistent. It might appear in individuals and in isolated cases, but it's only in silos. It's only for with some of the heroes within the organization who still represent some of the behavior competencies. And in between, well, we're talking about, yes, it's evident most of the time the behavior is consistent. It's still there is room for improvement, but the teams do understand that that behavior is being practiced with the management. They can see it, and the gaps between the leadership and the shop floor is there, but it's not a major gap. It's a manageable gap, and they can work on it. So it's from 1 to 3 for capabilities, 1 to 3 from behavior competencies. So we take this tool with us, and let's go and do the assessment. Before we do the assessment, we have to look into how to prepare for an effective assessment, basically, and to prepare for an effective assessment within any organization using the ICOR ORCA tool. It's basically 3 major, if you like, steps or phases. In the first phase, the organization do a bit of preparation. Now, the beauty of the organizational capability assessment with ICOR, there is no submission. There is no requirement to submit any evidences in advance. However, the good practice is to do a preparation, which I called it here evidence review. So the organizations, they do get access to the ORCA tool, and then they use that ORCA tool to do kind of self-assessment to start with, and that will help organizations to understand the 75 capability questions that I talked about, and to understand the 270, whatever, 3 questions about the behavior competencies related to those capabilities and strategies and dimensions. And once they do the gap assessment, they start to recognize what evidences related to the capabilities and behavior competencies they need to show to the external assessor from ICOR. So they start to organize, you might call it an evidence library, you might call it assigned responsibilities, and they know which teams should discuss what capability and what behavior competencies, and they prepare themselves to focus more on how we can demonstrate not only an evidence of a capability, but more importantly, the impact of the use and the implementation of that capability and behavior competencies within the organization, and how that is helping to improve and increase the organizational resilience within that particular organization. And then we move once they are ready, we move to the external assessment. Basically, here where an ICOR assessor will come into the stage and do the assessment interviews with the relevant and concerned team, and use and look into their gap assessment findings, the actions they've taken to close those findings, and focus on the results and the impacts. And normally organizations with the experience they've gained from doing gap assessment, at this stage they are more prepared, and they can show more data to support the level of maturity in both the implementation of the capability assessments as well capability resilience, as well as the behaviors they have. And then there is a third element to the assessment, which is a staff surveys. And ICOR has defined, it's quite a lengthy survey, I would say, to start with, a 75 question survey. But it's a very insightful and useful, and that's I'm talking about from what I've seen and experienced. Basically, organizations found that survey very useful, very insightful, and we ask the best practice. We ask organizations to at least target 10% of their employees. If they are smaller scale, small or medium organizations, we ask them to increase the sample as much as they can. If they are large organizations, okay, we say a minimum try to target 10% of the sample size. More important is you need to target all levels of the organization. So you get feedback from the survey, from the senior management, from the department heads, section heads, supervision, team leaders, and shop floor employees, as well as various sites. So if you have various sites, also you need to make sure you have a mix of all the sites included. And then uh, and then the good practice is, yeah, go and do the full survey once, 75 questions. Just go and do it so that you get a full picture, because it does cover all the 75 capability requirements for organizational resilience. And then there will be some interesting comparison between what the people think happening in the organization with regards to that particular capability, and what the organization evidences suggest, and what the top management thinks. And that comparison was really very useful in many organizations. And then the good practice, then my advice would be to organizations with regards to the employee survey, is to go ahead and maybe split it into smaller portions, focusing on the initial areas where there was a discrepancy or a mismatch between the perceptions of the employees with regards to where we sit as an organization with the maturity level of our organizational resilience versus to what the management and the systems suggest. So try to focus and do a smaller version of the survey on a regular basis, and target probably even a specific sector of the employees or level, and try to use the survey to get more insights and engage more team into the journey of organizational resilience. And that's really important, because organizational resilience, having worked in, as I said, 20 plus years in management system audits, is completely different approach. Uh, it's a much bigger umbrella. Uh, you cannot compare it to, for example, an ISO standard, I don't know, quality management system, ISO 9001, or ISO 14001, or ISO 18, etc., 45001, and even information security, etc. These are very specific standards. They can be audited on a standalone, focusing in a function within the organization. This is organizational resilience model, as being developed by ICOR, is a big umbrella that that has that touches on the overall organization. So involving all the employees, all the various management teams, all the teams within the organization is really key in making sure that we have the right organizational culture that will improve and push forward towards organizational resilience, and making sure we are aligned and we are starting to integrate all those individual management systems we have in place towards an improved and higher capability and higher maturity in organizational resilience. So this is how we prepare for assessment, basically, in organization, and these are the best practices that I have seen. Let me pause for a minute, and we have an engaging poll for our esteemed listeners. The questions about are your organization, is it in the process of or thinking or considering assessment of organizational resilience? Where are you in the journey?
Yeah, and I'd like to just interject, thanks, Bassem, is those of you that say you conduct resilience assessments regularly, can you use the questions piece or the post survey, the post webinar survey, to share what kind of assessments that you do? Because it would be really interesting to see what organizations are using around the world, also to help inform us as well. We're going to give you about 8 more seconds to choose whether you've never done a formal resilience assessment, that it looks like some of you are currently preparing, that you've completed at least one, and that you conduct resilience assessments regularly. So I'm going to go ahead and um, end and share the results. This is interesting because GoToWebinar recently updated everything, and so learning how to do their polls is interesting. So more than
Yeah.
half of you have never done a formal assessment, which is normal. But almost 25% of you are preparing for your first assessment, and almost
Okay.
20% of you are doing that regularly. So that's exciting to hear. Back to you, Bassam.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's really interesting. That's very encouraging because, as I said, it's really important to test the organizational resilience maturity and know where we stand and where we should focus. It's a very important survival, I would say, and continual improvement approach for organizations. So that's really interesting to hear. Okay. So let's do a bit of a deep dive into the two dimensions that I'm going to cover in today's webinar, sharing some feedback, lessons learned, and best practices, as well as some weak points that I've noticed during those assessments with you guys. So starting with dimension number one, and in dimension one, the assessment covers three main strategies, basically, under dimension one, which is the leadership. The strategy 1.1, which is having a shared vision and purpose for organization. And under strategy 1.1, there will be a 5 detailed capability assessment questions, if you like. I tried just to summarize them in simple words. So here we cover that whether the organizational strategy, i.e. vision, mission, objectives, drives the daily behavior of the organization at all levels, and all the team members, all the staff of this organization are really aligned, and they know how they contribute to the achievement of this strategy, and that's basically is being used as a guidelines for every decision made. So top management, they have this important, I wouldn't call it filter, maybe focus, telescope. So whenever they are discussing about moving forward, making a new investment, changes, etc., they look at their strategy eyes and say, yeah, that's really well aligned with our strategy, and there is a clear alignment between in even shop floor level individual goals and objectives and KPIs. You can track them up somehow and trace them up to the achievement of the overall organizational resilience, and hence we are all aligned within the organization, and that's if that the whole thing covers the context of the organization really well in a good way. And then under dimension one, there is also the context and relationships. So that's strategy number two, 1.2, or the second strategy. And here we're talking about, do we really have a good understanding about who we are and what do we fit within our ecosystem? A very important topic that we had detailed discussions with many organizations. Basically, do we see the full picture of the whole ecosystem and beyond, and are we really a strong player in the ecosystem? Do we really act or react? Do we really take proactive actions, or we just wait for things to happen? And how do we manage our relationships within this ecosystem, whether it's the first circle, the medium range circle, or even the global circle of the ecosystem? and how do we use those partnerships to support us in achieving our strategy, our objectives, and monitoring the value out of them. And then the 1.3 strategy under the dimension talks about governance and accountability. And here we're talking about there is a focus on organizational resilience. So have we kept organizational resilience on the side, or is it really at the core of our governance and accountability? So there is a clear ownership, there is a clear accountability. If we ask the question, who's in charge of organizational resilience? Yeah, we know the answer really well. And have we documented that in a clear way that people can refer to, relate to, articulate, and understand, i.e., there is a policy, there is a governance model, it's all aligned, supported by the proper risk management, risk identification, and risk evaluation systems, which is only all linked to everything that we do in all levels of the organization. So those are the three, if you like, strategies. And then, as I said, in the ORCA assessment tool, there are 5 questions under each one of them. And then under each one of those questions, there are various number of questions related to the behavioral competencies that test how we implement this particular capability within the organization. So this is what we test, this is what we examine basically. And what I have seen from assessing dimension 1, where organizations really have shown really some good examples, and some of them, I know some of them in UAE are willing even to share a benchmarking exercise, to share their experience, talking to them, and they were keen actually to say, yeah, we're happy to share if any organization would like to learn. But I'm not gonna mention any specific confidential information here. I tried to make it as general as possible. Without talking about the what organizations do well and what they don't do well. It's gonna be kind of generalized, trying not to breach any confidentiality. But again, if you find anything here interesting, you can reach out to ICOR, to Linda, and say, we would like to learn more about this, and maybe we can link you with that specific organization who are willing to do a benchmark. So in terms of the strategy 1.1, which talks about shared vision, unity of purpose, I've seen really good examples of involving many key stakeholders when formulating and even reviewing the strategy, the vision, the mission, and the values. So it's not only the management team, it's not even only the employees. I've seen many organizations involving partners, involving suppliers, involving other third-party agencies, because they have technical expertise or knowledge, and they thought it's good to have them part of the formulation team as well. And then I've seen also in some of the really 3-star level organization, I've seen a very high level of awareness amongst various levels of the employees. That was demonstrated by independent assessment, surveys, and feedbacks. Besides the random interviews and questions that have been asked through the assessment. I've seen really very detailed alignment between, as I mentioned earlier, individual objectives of employees in the performance evaluation appraisal systems, and going up to the top level organizational objectives. There was really some very important, very good and very effective systems that I've seen. And employees, when they log in to do their appraisals and PVPs in the system, they can see clearly how this is linked to top organizational objectives. And then many of the organizations that we have assessed, they have actually even started to include a specific resilience KPIs into the executive performance dashboards. Some of them are live dashboards, and some of them have gone to the details of even having a live dashboard that measure I don't know, very small things like uh, decision making speed. Imagine so how quickly we make decisions against issues raised in the weekly, I don't know, management team catch up calls. How quickly the decisions made reach to the lowest level of the organization, or the announcements, and so on. So that kind of, and they're trying to test again the and identify the tension points within the organization and test how well they work. Strategy 1.2, which talks about the context of the organization relationships, the strongest points I've seen in managing the partnerships within the organizations. I have seen formal systems, really well-tested systems, effectively implemented systems in managing partnerships. Many organizations, they have opted for getting even the specific ISO 44001, which is the Collaborative Business Relationships ISO standard. So they are certified to that ISO standard, which is a detailed standard, and it has a lot of detailed requirements. And few of the top 3-star level organizations have even implemented technology. So they have electronic systems for partnership management systems, which allows them to enter into partnerships with remote organizations outside UAE, regardless where they sit in the world. They approach them, and there is a value exchange platform in the systems that shows what value you get. It's a win-win situation versus what value I'm getting from you. And there is a regular feedback, surveys, and measurements and KPIs in a detailed way. So the partnerships really had a great focus from organizations I have seen. In the governance and accountability side, the good practices were into formalizing actually, and making sure the ownership, the specific strategies, the specific functions, teams, responsibilities, appointed champions of organizational resilience are very clear and are formal within the organizations. And then there was a focus on linking organizational resilience with innovation. So many of the again 3-star level organizations in UAE, they have a dedicated innovation labs, and the agenda of the labs were focusing on answering the important questions: how can we become a more resilient organization in this specific scope, and that specific scope of service provision or products. Um, and then in the governance side, there was a trend amongst again the 2 and 3-star level organization in implementing the shared leadership within the organization by still using a risk approach to it. So rather than just having a simple matrix that says, okay, I can delegate my authority here and there, and so that we have more of flexibility in making decisions, it's actually linked to a risk profiling, where they found out then that there are many activities and topics which have a low risk profile, which means you can delegate more of that versus a high risk profile, which means okay, you still can delegate, but with some restrictions and some controls. And then they do testing and scenarios to make sure that really works well. So this is in general for dimension 1, what works well. So I summarize it by those keywords. Everyone seems to know what we are doing and why we are doing it. And then Linda? I thought I lost the sound for a moment.
I think you did. So I think for like the last 15 seconds, we lost you.
Okay, yeah. So again, summarizing this in a few words, I'm sorry for that. It's an IT issue. So so everyone knows what's happening and why it's happening, and everyone is have a clear understanding of the key relationships. They are formal, they are tested, and the ownership of resilience is very clear. And then where organizations struggle, in the 1.2 strategy, they struggle. Okay, they are good in partnerships, but they really struggle in horizon scanning, in having the full understanding of what do we expect in the future. So future foresight, if you like. So future foresight was not very strong capability.
Awesome.
Uh,
We lost your presentation now. We have your sound, but we lost the slide.
okay, so let me reshare. So again. Uh, Share screen. So can you see that again?
We can, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So horizon scanning is a weak point, i.e., future foresight. So there was no formal mechanism to scan what you expect to see in the future, and what's coming, and there was no clear understanding who owns this. And then with the organizational ecosystem itself, uh, there was a lack in understanding the relationships within the ecosystem. So although some organizations have worked on defining what is the full picture of the ecosystem, there was not a clear understanding on, well, if what levers can move here and there that could impact our organizational resilience, our readiness, our agility, basically. So there was not a clear understanding on how interdependencies, especially I'm talking about government entities who are linked to other government entities, and in some cases who are linked to a third party providers. So there was a kind of a weak point that needs to be focused on. And then on the accountability part, while they have defined the rules and they used a risk-based profiles to make sure everything is clear, there was a weak point with regards to making sure that the risk programs actually are effective and actually are working and are delivering and identifying the real risks of the organizations. And then questions were asked about, so how do you compare, how do you see the trends, and making sure that there are no repeated incidents, there are no repeated problems or non-conformities happening in that context. Moving into dimension two, which talks about cultural organization behavior. So again, what the assessment examines, it's very similar to dimension one. Uh, Again, under dimension two, there are three strategies. 2.1 talks about leadership and culture, and here we're talking about, do we have the right leaders? Do we have leaders who have high emotion intelligence, leaders who actually walk the talk, leaders who are visible, leaders who promote right culture, leaders who support adaptation to the change and manage the change in the correct way and engage all stakeholders of the organizations. And then 2.2 focuses more on shared knowledge, shared information and knowledge. And here do we talk about probably a few key points. Do we have a formal knowledge management system that captures the knowledge, that captures the skills, that captures the expertise of the organization, and making sure it's available to those who needs it in the right time, and they use it, and there is a positive impact on the utilization of this knowledge system. And do we capture all the lessons from all various sources within the organizations with the aim to become a learning organization? And then strategy 2.3 talks about, focuses more about the agility side. Are we an agile organization? Do we implement agile project management at all levels within the organization? Are we fast decision makers? Are we effective decision makers? Do we deal with pressures and problems in a quick way and make the right decisions? And are we improving the agile culture at all levels, driven by the top management of the organization? Well, and what organizations actually have done well in that landscape? Um, uh, I mean, I can give an example. The focus on organizational resilience in UAE specifically in the government started in 2020. In May 2020 specifically, the UAE Prime Minister and the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, has tweeted actually after a prime minister cabinet office meeting, saying the world will not be the same after COVID-19, and that's more than 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago. We need a flexible government to deal with changes and in our new national priorities. And since then, all those organizations took that message seriously, very seriously actually, and they started to look deeply into their organization resilience models, and started with the top senior leadership members, because the directions were you need to implement agility and resilience within your capabilities and within your organizational behaviors, and make sure that your leaders lead by example. So good practice that I have seen, all the leaders of the organizations are are leading by example, and they are encouraging the team members to speak up. So they have these open door policies. They have systems to encourage error reporting, to encourage fraud reporting, and non-conformity reporting, and they get rewards for doing that. So that's really some of the good practices that I have seen in the organizations, the three-level organizations. Uh, in the in the inclusion behavior, so it's not in a strategy actually. In particular, in an inclusion behavior of the organizational resilience, I've seen really good examples again in the three-star level organizations where even up to the front office, the shop floor employees are aware of their role in improving organizational resilience. They are part of the planning sessions. They are included in setting up the performance indicators and the objectives of the resilience. Employees are encouraged by various employee care systems, and there are specific mentorship systems to take employees and improve with a focus on their individual resilience. So organizations understanding that and organizational resilience is also very much linked to the employees' individual resilience. So there's mentorship systems that focus on identifying individuals with high individual resilience versus those who need help and they need support to do that. And then in the agile organization, some of the good examples is that the government itself have taken the requirements of the agile organization and organization resilience capabilities and behaviors in general, that as stated in ICOR's model, and they have included those in a couple of the two most important awards in UAE. Dubai Excellence Award, which is aimed for the Dubai government entities, and then Mohammed bin Rashid Excellence Award, which is aimed for the federal government entities. Those two awards have a specific criteria and requirements, detailed requirements that talk about implementing and improving organizational resilience. And of course, there was examples that we have seen from entities during the COVID-19, and that we are experiencing and seeing, and they demonstrate during the current Middle East Gulf crisis that we're still actually living at the moment. And where organizations struggle, information management, and I think it's not a surprise. I've seen many organizations still struggle in knowledge systems, sometimes the knowledge systems are prepared, and you have even technology used to capture the knowledge, but there isn't a clear understanding of what's the impact of this system. Did it help the organization to achieve what they want to achieve? Is it positively impacting the organization resilience and the agility? The other struggle that I have seen in a behavior competence about being aware and reflective. There are always rounds of reviews that happen, either management reviews, team reviews, project reviews, but there is not a clear capture of the and use of the lessons learned and findings of those reviews. And there isn't a determined and intended time and space to allow the individuals and management teams to reflect, focus, and think about what happened and how can we learn from it. And in the leadership and culture, normally there is a gap, a mismatch, if you like, between the capability score that we see in this particular strategy and the behavioral score and the employee survey results. So there is a mismatch that says, well, the shop floor thinks this, and the management still thinks, no, we're in a different level. So there is a need to make sure, is the organizational culture really living, and the behaviors are really embedded and hence reflecting at all levels. A second point before we go into the last part of the webinar, and that talks about specifically your knowledge sharing lessons learned system. Do you share what I said about the weakness? Do you have a formal framework for tracking and closing of actions? Does a review happen? Is it an informal, or we don't have a system at all?
And just given the time, I'm only gonna give you about 10 more seconds for this one.
Okay.
All right. It looks like about half of you have some kind of formal framework with a tracked closure of actions. And then about 22% say that reviews happen, but findings really change behavior. And then we're down to no structured mechanism exists for 17%, and that for the most part, knowledge stays with the individuals. That's pretty much what, Bassam, you were just sharing. I feel like what you just
Yeah,
said is what
absolutely.
the audience here sees in
Yeah,
their own
absolutely.
organization.
Again, that's what I've seen during assessment. So they have systems. Yeah, they do have systems, but does it really make an impact? Does it really make a result on improving resilience? Do they use the lessons learned? It's a different story. Okay, so let's move into what next and what the scores mean for organizations. So this is one of the really good graphs that I always encourage organizations to look at, which is looking at your capability scores versus your behavior scores. So we take an average capability score per strategy. So we have 15 strategies, and we plot that against your average behavioral scores. And then we look, where does each strategy fall? Is it in the paper tiger? That means, yeah, we have policies, we have strong muscles, if you like, organization muscles, we have the capabilities, but we are still lagging behind on the behaviors. Or is it really we're still at the initial stage in both sides? We're the foundation stage. So we need to work significantly on our capabilities as well as our culture and our behaviors. Or are we really in the 3-star level? We are in the resilience excellence range. We have strong capabilities supported by strong culture and strong behaviors. Or we have the good intentions, we have the good behaviors, leadership really talk about it, we all understand it, but we need to spend more I don't know, we invest more on the capabilities and making sure it actually happens. So, and I've seen many organizations, there's no right and wrong here. I've seen many organizations starting at actually paper tiger, most of them that I've seen. And then by the second round of, if you like, formal assessment, yes, because some of them have done 2 assessments so far, they have moved nicely and shifted towards the resilience excellence. It takes time. It takes a year. It takes probably between one to 2 years, but that's the journey. Once you see your gaps, where you need to focus on, that's the journey that you will embark on, and you have a clear understanding where you should go, and that's the beauty of the system. Uh, so what do you need to do once you do the assessment? You go through the formal assessment from ICOR. What you really need to do is to analyze the report, look at it, have a discussion with the assessor, and then start to work on it. So you design your next actions with a specific time frames, ownership, engage the right people, the right levels within the organization, and implement it. And then, most importantly, do your own internal mini assessments, and then annual surveillances, and then prepare for another full assessment by ICOR, so that you can measure and move through that journey. This is a typical example from dimension 1 and 2. Again, I made it just as general as possible. And you can see where, for example, behavior scores sometimes are usually in most of the strategies lower than the capability score. So organizations focus more on documenting and making the capability, buying the system, making sure we have it, and they're a little bit lag behind on walk the talk, and making sure that they engage people and making sure they have the right culture so that they can align. So ideal situation, we need to align both the capability and the behavior scores to achieve more than 90% and be on the 3-star level. Things to take away from what we've talked about. Just making sure aware of the time. Scores is not the start of the point. Sorry, assessment and scores is not the end point. It's a start point. So make sure it's a starting point. Let's build on it and go ahead and move. Be aware of as I said, the gap between the top level and the bottom level, the boardroom and the front line. Be aware of it. From dimension 1 and 2, those are the 2 most capabilities, 1.2, 1.3, 2 most, if you like, common gaps I've seen in these 2 more strategies. Resilience is a journey. Make sure you just keep going. It's not a destination. It's not a certificate we just get and put in the wall. It's a never-ending journey. Preparation will help a lot to understand what will happen in the assessment and make use and get the best out of the assessment. And every score tells a story. Look at the quadrant and try to identify what does it tell you and where should you focus. Next tips, that's my last slide. ICOR has a lot of resources actually that will help you. So in the website, there's a full toolkit for the ORCA assessment. There is a portal which you can use, access, and do your self-assessment. And then it comes with a guidelines, detailed guidelines, and there is also it allows you to export the report, download it, and then you can approach ICOR, you can talk to Linda, ask questions, and get more clarifications. My advice for those who said in the beginning, we're still not considered, we're considering, but still have not done anything about it, go for it. It's a very useful exercise. I've seen it in action. It actually works, and it helps organizations move in the right direction in organizational resilience. Thank you very much for your patience. I apologize for the hiccup that has happened from the IT. I hope it did not really impact the story. And up to you, Linda.
Well, thank you very much. We're really, really excited that you're going to be with us and come back again to talk to us about some of the other best practices as well. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
I do like what you said here. The only regret is starting too late, not the fact that they did it, but that they started too late because of the learning that took place. So we
Absolutely,
know
yeah.
we are past this time. Thank you, Bassam, and we will hopefully see you all next month.
Thank you. Thank you all for your patience and have a nice, lovely day. Thank you very much. Bye bye.